Amstel Gold might be the most heads-up race on the calendar, with the standard obstacles of people and cars, with the added thrill of extensive traffic furniture that, somewhat ironically, supports one of the best cycling infrastructures in the world. Behind a break of 10, the teams set pace based roughly on how confident they were in their leaders' kick up and just over the final climb of the Cowberg, with BMC and Movistar doing the bulk of the early work. I'll admit I like to blame things on electronic shifting, but Belkin's Bauke Mollema sure seems like he's trying to get his electronic shifters in order right here, and then signals for a new bike 5k later. I will say that other than a brief push, Mollema's return to the pack was very clean, pushing into the wind to make progress from car to car until teammates could take him the rest of the way. Omega Pharma Quickstep began chipping in on pacemaking around 70k to go, and the increased tempo and constant train of hills began to take their toll on the group, and even on the production team, who struggled with the on-screen graphics all day. Alarmed at the breakaway's falling gap, Nicola Boehm of Bardiani's CSF attacked over the Gulperberg at 47k to go, reducing the break to 6. The bunch took a more casual approach, which shortly afterward resulted in an explosion of pace and position battling that culminated with OPQS's Tony Martin cartwheeling into a hedge at 43k to go. When another relatively uneventful ascent took place on the Kreuzberg 3k later, Europcar's Thomas Voeckler attacked. Not that he's been one to require or even consider tactical justification for an attack, but Voeckler's move was well placed. He's got the power to win out of a smaller group and the endurance to take a longer shot at the finish. In fact, last year's race was taken in just such a fashion by just such an escape. So no coincidence that despite what Voeckler considered insufficiently aggressive cornering from the camera moto, a group of 6 similarly able contenders had been established by the Eiserbosweg at 38k to go. However, there was always some question about the seriousness of this escape. Nearly every rider had a trump card back in the field, the chasing speed was still insufficient to prevent track standing at the bottom of climbs, and even after OPQS's Zdenek Stibar was swapped out for Katusha's Alexander Kolobnev, it took several kilometers for the chase to materialize beyond surges and regrouping. Of course, some time gaps would have helped to see how things were going too, but they were having enough trouble with the kilometers graphics. Coming into the Cowberg roughly 10k later, with 24k to go, the race was split into a breakaway remnant of 2, then 8 strong chasers, and then, despite the best effort of one of Voeckler's teammates to crash everyone, a chasing pack led by Omega Pharma and Garmin. By the finish line, we finally had some useful time checks that didn't reveal a particularly solid gap. On the next climb at 16k to go, Movistar finally decided that yes, they did want to chase this escape that had none of their riders in it. Green Edge's Peter Weining tipped his hand that he was working for teammates behind by alternating between attacks and yelling at people. But just when it seemed like the jig was up, Astana's Jakob Fuglsang and BMC's Greg Van Avermaet took off, eventually catching the last remnant of the break at 11k to go. This quartet managed to hold a gap until the Bemmelerberg at 8k to go, but as riders bridged and the course turned into a stiff headwind, surges from Van Avermaet and Katusha's Giampolo Caruso couldn't hold off the catch. Green Edge used a bend in the final few kilometers to try and split or at least tire the field in a stiff crosswind, but descending into the Cowberg it was the same usual chaos of Aerotuck bumper cars. OPQS set pace for Kwiatkowski, but almost as soon as the climb began, BMC's Sammy Sanchez leapt clear of the field. It's pretty early for an attack, but Sanchez is a former Olympic champ, and so Kwiatkowski, Green Edge's Simon Gerrans, and Movistar's Alejandro Valverde are drawn out to follow. Sanchez blows soon enough, and Gerrans, playing a position battle with Kwiatkowski, accelerates to the outside as the climb sweeps left. The thing is, there's a much shorter line on the inside, which Sanchez teammate Philippe Gilbert is all too happy to demonstrate, leaving a well-positioned but not nearly explosive enough Mollema floundering in his wake. Gerrans moves to correct his mistake, but Gilbert has the edge in more than just line selection, and continues to power away. The race organizers added some road after the top of the climb to prevent it from simply being an uphill charge, but they didn't count on a top-form Gilbert and a fairly absurd tailwind. This wind advantage wasn't lost on Lotto's Yellow Vanendert, who leapt clear a great distance out and was rewarded almost immediately as the rest of his group decided to discuss in committee who should chase him down. Ahead, Gilbert had time to celebrate. Twice, actually, and Vanendert was able to cruise home just ahead of Gerrans, who nipped Valverde on the line for third. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was won.
I am the very model of a moderated general. I've information vegetable, animal and mineral. I know the things of England and my quote the price historical. From Marathon to Waterloo, all the categorical. I'm very well acquainted to it matters mathematical. I understand equations, but too simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem, I'm teaming with a lot of news. With many simple facts about the spread I've got to lose. I'm very good at integral and differential calculus. I know the scientific names of beings and the calculus. In short, it matters vegetable, animal and mineral.